Billy's discovery of the clock was no mere accident. It was as if the attic, with its musty air and skeletal beams, had whispered secrets through the dust motes that danced in the shafts of light, piercing the gloom. The clock itself sat on an ancient trunk, its wood darkened by time, its surface etched with the toil of generations. It was a macabre piece, grand in design, yet somber in its aura, with names where there should have been numbers, and hands that were more like scythes, reaping time. He at first thought the names were merely decorative, a craftsman's tribute to the family's lineage. But as he watched Elizabeth, his great-aunt's name, become unreadable, a cold dread settled over him. Her death that very morning had been sudden, a shock to the family, yet the clock seemed to have known, its hands coldly indifferent to the loss they signified. Days passed, and Billy began to sense a darker truth to the ticking mechanism. The clock not only marked time, but seemed to command it. The fading names were a ledger of lives ending, and as his eyes caught the sight of his own name, Billy's heart sank. His name, once carved with the same dark certainty as the others, was now a ghostly imprint barely visible against the aged wood. At first, it was the small things. He would forget words mid-sentence, lose his train of thought, misplace items he had just set down. Then the vitality began to drain from him in earnest. His skin grew pale, his steps hesitant. Nightmares haunted his sleep, filled with the tick-tock of the clock, a sound like the beating heart of some great, monstrous beast. He was certain now that the clock was not just a keeper of time, but a thief. It was stealing the essence of his life, as it had done with all his forebears whose names adorned its face. The family had always said death was preordained, a legacy carried in their blood, but Billy saw the truth. It was carried in the clock. The home, once a sanctuary of childhood memories, now felt like a mausoleum, each room heavy with the presence of those who had passed. The ticking followed him, a relentless reminder that his time was measured by something far more sinister than the natural order. Driven by desperation, Billy began to research old family legends, tales spoken in hushed tones during family gatherings, whispers of an ancestor who had dealt with dark arts, a pact made for prosperity at the grim cost of controlling the lifespan of his lineage through the clock, an ancestral curse that bound them all. The more he learned, the more Billy became obsessed with finding a way to break the curse. He scoured the attic for any clue, any relic that might hold the key to salvation. It was during one such frantic search that he found a hidden compartment in the trunk upon which the clock sat. Inside was a tangle of old letters, written in a spidery script that spoke of regret and a way to end the curse. But as Billy read, the light in the attic flickered, casting long shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. A gust of wind slammed the attic window shut, and the room plunged into darkness. When the lights returned, the letters were gone, vanished as if they were never there. In their place, a new name began to appear on the clock, slowly, as if being carved by an invisible hand. It was the name of his unborn child, the next in line to suffer the fate of the clock. Billy's terror turned to rage. He would not let the curse claim another. With a ferocity born of fear and love, he grabbed the clock and smashed it against the trunk. But instead of splintering into pieces, the clock absorbed the blow, its face unmarred, its ticking unceasing. The laughter of children, echoes of his ancestors perhaps, filled the attic, rising above the tick-tock of the clock. But it was not the laughter of joy. It was mocking, chilling, a sound that froze his soul. And as he watched his name fade to nothing, Billy realized the truth. The clock didn't just take time, it took everything. The next morning, the clock was found, ticking faithfully, undisturbed, and Billy was nowhere to be seen. The house stood silent, a sentinel over the unending legacy of the clock that ticked life away, waiting for the next name to fade into the silence of history.